welcome to today's class. In this lecture video, we are going to discuss about wage payment plans. Now let us see the lecture objectives. To understand the wage payment plans, what are the different wage payment plans are available, and also to discuss about wage payment plans. Finally, at the end of the class, you will be able to understand and apply the wage payment plans. Now, let us discuss about what is a wage. A wage is a monetary compensation, or it called as a remuneration, personal expenses or labor. Personal expenses means it's payable, the expenses which are paid for the people, and also for the labor. It is paid by an employer to an employee in exchange for work done. So, the wage is a remuneration that is paid to the employee by the employer, and this is also called as the remuneration for the expenses or for the labor. And wages are an example of expenses that are involved in running a business. Of course, as business involves a lot of expenses, this wage is also one of the expenses for the business. Now, let us discuss about what are the types of wages. Wages have been classified into basically three types or three categories. One is living wage, the other one is minimum wage, the other one is fair wage. So, this way the wages are of three types: living wage, minimum wages, and the fair wages. Now let us discuss about one by one in detail. Now, what is a living wage? A living wage is a wage sufficient to ensure the workman food, shelter, clothing, comfort, and provision for evil days, provision for evil days, as regard for skill of an artisan or his one. So, means the living wage is a wage that is paid for the worker that at least satisfy their basic necessities like food, shelter, clothing. So that is called a living wage. So the basic wage that is paid for the workers is a living wage. So it includes the wage that is sufficient for fulfilling their basic necessities like their clothing, their provision for the evil days and all. So this is called a living wage. And the second one is a minimum wage. So, what is the minimum wage? A minimum wage may be defined as the lowest wage necessary to maintain a worker and his family at a minimum level of subsistence, which includes food, clothing, and shelter. And of course, a wage here in the minimum wage also sufficient given for the worker to fulfill their basic necessities, but at the same time, the worker, this minimum wage must be able to satisfy the the workers' basic necessities, but at the same time, this minimum wage is the lowest wage as necessary. So, minimum wage can be defined as the lowest wage that is necessary to maintain the level of subsistence, which includes the food, clothing, and shelter. So, to fulfill the food, clothing, and shelter, what is the minimum wage that is required to be paid is called a minimum wage. And the third one is a fair wage. A fair wage is a mean between the living wage and the minimum wage. So, minimum living wage is nothing but the wage that is required for fulfilling the basic necessities. At the same time, minimum wage is a kind of wage, that is paid for fulfilling their basic necessities. So fair wage is the difference, is the mean between the minimum wage and the basic wage. That is the minimum wage and the living wage. So a fair wage is a mean between the living wage and the minimum wage. So the fair wage lies in between the minimum wage and the living wage. So while the lower limit of the fair wage must be the minimum wage. So definitely lower limit is the minimum wage. So why we call it as a lower limit is the minimum wage is because the minimum wage is defined and must be paid to the employee, and basically from the act or from the government. So it is an obligation for the company to pay this minimum wage. And the upper limit capacity is of the industry means the minimum wage that is paid for the worker, the upper limit is decided by the industry itself. So in the industry, whatever the practice is there for giving the wage for the workers, it decides. So a fair wage is a mean between the living wage and the minimum wage. So it lies between the minimum wage and the living wage. Means whatever wage that is paid as in the form of minimum wage and also the wage that is paid as a living wage, this fair wage may be lies in between these two wages. And the lowest limit of this particular fair wage is the minimum wages, whereas the upper limit of the wage that is decided by the industry. So when an industry gives the minimum wage that is paid to the worker to a higher level, then that will be decided as the minimum wage to that particular industry. Now, so if you compare the minimum wages, you see in cement industry the minimum wage may be different, and automobile industry where the minimum wage may be different. So in this way, the minimum wage is something different with respect to the various industries. And the fair wage depends on present economic condition as well as on the future prospects, of course. So if the economy is good and good enough, then the fair wage will be good. Otherwise, if the economy is in slow in condition, or growth is slow in condition, or else the economy is not in a healthy condition, then this minimum wages may be decreased. So that is what the current situation may have an influence on the minimum wage. But at the same time, it may in future prospects also. In case of future, if the economy is good, then fair wages may be minimum wages may be good. Otherwise, again depending upon the future scenario of the industry, the minimum wage may be changed. Now, what are the depending factors of minimum wages? So, for paying the minimum wage or for the fair wages, what are the depending factors for the fair wages? So, the fair wage depending factors are first one, minimum wages. So, what are the minimum wages that are supposed to be paid, and based on that, the fair wages are going to be decided. If the minimum wages to some extent it's fine, it's to some extent, then based on that the fair wage will be decided and fixed. And the capacity of the industry to pay, yes. So the another factor for the fixing the fair wage is the capacity of the industry to pay. So sometimes some of the industries may have the capacity of paying higher pay for the as in the form of wages. So in such a case, for such industries, the minimum wage will be more. So that again influences the fair wage to that particular industry. So that is why, depending upon the capacity of the industry to pay, also this fair wage also can be varied. Prevailing rates of wages in the same or similar occupations in the same or neighboring localities. So that is also important thing. Say for example, in most of the places, if most of the people are going for one particular industry for work, then if that particular industry pays more, then most of the workers also show interest to go to that particular industry and work to that particular industry to get the fair wage, better wage. So now that is the reason why, in case if the similar occupations are there, so then with these similar occupations also decides the fair wage, because since people are showing interest to work in that particular place, so everybody will go there and try to get the fair wage in a better way. Also, it depends upon the fair wage. It also depends upon the productivity of the labor. So if the productivity of the labor is good, then industry also pay fair rates to a higher levels. Otherwise, if the skill, if the labor is less and the productivity of the labor is less, then also the industry may not be in a position to pay high. That is why the productivity of labor is also important, which also decides the fair wages of that particular industry. Then level of national income and its distribution. So that is also one of the factors for the fair wages. So if the national income is good, then the income will be distributed accordingly and the fair wages will be paid accordingly. So otherwise, if the economy is bad or if the national income is bad, then naturally the fair wages that are paid to the workers also very less. So that is also one of the factors for deciding the fair wages. And then place of the industry in the economy of the country. So where the industry is located, whether the industry is located very near to these people, or if it is located far away from the people. So if the industry is located nearby the people, so that people may show interest to go there and work, so that they will get the industries will get the manpower at a cheaper cost. So otherwise, the industry may not get manpower with that particular economic price, and they are supposed to pay higher wages. So that is also one of the parameter for fixing the pay wages. Now let us discuss about the types of wage payment plans. What are the different types of wage payment plans are available? First thing is time-based wage plan or wage system. Time-based wage system. Second one is piece-based wage system. Okay. So these two are the different types of wage payment plans. So all the other wage systems are also of these combination of these two systems only. So now basic wage payments plans are the time-based wage and piece-based wage systems. Now let us discuss about time-based wage system. So in the time-based wage system, wages are calculated in the basis of time worked, irrespective of the quality of work done. So now the wage is decided based on the time spent by the worker at the workplace. So that is what only the wage payment base in the case of wage payment system, time-based wage system. So here in the case of a time-based wage system, there is no importance for the quality of work done. So where when you are paying the wage in case of time-based wage system, where the quality of work may not be of that much important here. So it is not being considered while paying the wage system, wages when it is based on the time-based wage. So mostly industries where the time spent by the workers is more, like if the workers spend some time in the particular industry, and if the industry is able to get some output, so then they can follow this kind of time-based wage system, wherein the industries can go on their work with this kind of wage plan. So the wages are calculated by multiplying the time spent by predetermined rate of labor. Simply, the wage is determined by the time spent by the workers multiplied by the minimum wage, that is, or prevailing wage rates. So the wage is time spent by the worker multiplied by the rate per unit of time. So this way the wage is calculated in case of time-based wage system, where T is the time spent in hours, where R is the rate per hour. So this can be varied depending upon various industries, depending upon the industry and the different other factors what we have decided and discussed it now. So depending upon this time, the time base, in this time based system, the wage will be calculated. The second one is a piece rate system. So what is called a piece rate system? So in this piece rate system, wages are paid to a worker on the basis of output produced by him without considering the time taken in the performing the work. So naturally, piece rate system considers how much pieces or the amount of production is produced by the particular worker is the base for fixing the waste. So naturally, in the time-based system, wherein the quality of work and the quantity of work is not being considered, but here in the piece rate system, the quantity of work is certainly considered, and here how much amount of work that is actually produced by the worker is the only parameter for fixing the waste in case of piece rate system. So the waste in the piece rate system is calculated as n multiplied by r, where n is the number of units produced multiplied by the rate per unit. So the earning of workers depends upon the speed of the work and his own individual skills and efficiency. So finally, so at the end of the day, how much amount of units that the worker is going to produce is the only thing that makes money for the worker. That is why the workers also will be in a position to apply their skills and produce their produce the work in the workplace in more efficient manner, and this way the piece rate system is going to be adopted. So now finally, there are three types of wages that are named as living wage, minimum wage and fair wage. And the wage payment plans include the time-based system and also the piece rate system. Now let's see the small question. So which of the following is not an objective of wage incentive programs? Is it developing ownership interest, improving employee retention, reducing labor cost, or it is facilitating the separation of employees? Exactly the last one, facilitating the separation of employees. It is not an objective. And the second, when the same rate of incentives is paid to the employees for each unit of goods produced by them, it is called straight piece rate, differential piece rate, task and time bounces, or none of the above. So exactly it is a straight piece rate system. So that's what the today's class.